it's Ashwin Rao, and in today's video I'm bringing you a new pair of shoes to my collection, but a vintage pair that I've been long seeking in the used market. It's a design that I think is both classic and modern, yet it's a style that hasn't really been reproduced many a times by modern shoemakers, which is somewhat surprising to me. This is an American footwear manufacturer that still exists, but their production is largely outsourced to other countries. But back in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, this was one of the brands you wanted to get for welted footwear. And this is, of course, Florsheim, and this is the 92616 Split Toe Derby model in a black hatch grain leather. The Split Toe Derby model is, I think, one of the most relevant modern designs to footwear enthusiasts, partly because of the diminishment of Oxfords as a style necessary for a more formal workplace setting. As you all know, footwear has become more casual as dresswear has become more casual as the workplace settings across a wide range of industries has become more casual. People are wearing things like Uggs to work these days. They're wearing Allbirds, all types of brands. The staple out there these days is cemented footwear from brands such as Cole Haan and Echo. But if you dive back just a few decades, you will find that manufacturing was at a much higher standard. And in fact, to get that same level of production quality, you're going to have to pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to seek out a maker, usually in Japan, Europe, occasionally in the United States, who can create and develop a model similar to what was considered standard 50 years ago. I'm actually working with such a maker out of Indonesia right now to try to redeploy and develop this model, because I think the Split Toe Derby is a nice medium range shoe in terms of formality with casual attributes that really allows the person who's looking to dress up a little not get carried away in Oxfords and more dressed up looks, using chinos, using vintage styles that have become so popular in this particular segment. And so I wanted to go through this Split Toe Derby because I think it's particularly relevant as a style that bridges the casual and the classic, and yet is a model that is hard to come by and rare. This is in fact one of the only Split Toe Derbies from Florsheim using this particular design, which has this unique design element along the top angle of the shoe, along that collar here. I have seen a few other makers attempt style similar to this, such as Paolo Scafora, but none have done it with this style using a similar robust last, and that makes it very unique as a style that I think is well worthy of our attention, and I hope this is a style if it's recreated. So the Split Toe Derby, as you might see here, has this split right down the center of the toe. It is the term used to define the Norwegian Split Toe Derby, which has typically an apron. Aprons can be machine sewn or hand sewn, and this particular model appears to be a hand sewn apron, but not your classic pie crust apron that you see in more elevated styles. The pie crust apron requires quite a bit of handwork and is actually a style that I'm going to try to incorporate in the model that I'm going to develop with Kiyotoko Handmade, and I'm in the process of working through right now. This is a really nicely done hand sewn apron. Here we see 5 eyelets. These are blind eyelets, but they have a metal protector on the back side right here. Based on the date code here, this is a pair that originates from the 1960s. The model, the 92616, was really only available in the 1960s and maybe some of the 1970s. And at the time, the Split Toe Derby was not a popular style. And so these were only made in small quantities. And I'm guessing that this particular model was made in even smaller quantities because of all the design efforts required to create this particular style. This is a Goodyear welted construction. You can see this welt along the entire 360 degrees of this shoe with the stitching just underneath the shoe. In that era of the 1950s and 60s, the stitching here is of relatively high densities, 7 or so stitches per inch. That really defines that it took a craftsman who has skills in using a Goodyear welted machine to evenly and adequately distribute that stitch pattern across a 360-degree welt. If we flip the shoe over, you can see that this has a leather shoe with a classic 5-nail pattern. You see the 2 nails here and then the 3 nails up here. The flat waist with the squared edges, and then a heel block, which is somewhat unique compared to the other heel blocks I've had from Florsheim. This one has that V-cleat here, but it has 4 nails going down the middle and then a set of nails adorning the periphery of the shoe. I'm not sure if this was a replaced heel or the original manufactured heel, but it does have that V-cleat that has become characteristic of Florsheim shoes. And this grain, as you can see, forms both really lovely rolls as well as some very subtle creases along the edges of those rolls here. You see a double row of stitches adorning the edge of this facing here, and then a single row creating this other edge, the more lateral edge of that facing. Same pattern on the other side of the shoe. Then as we come along this unique collar design here, you can see the double row of stitches and then a separate piece of leather affixed to create this part of the shoe compared to the side paneling here. The side paneling then has this really nice curved detail before we head into the counter right here. So this is a vintage piece of footwear from an era that many of us appreciate clothing from. And so if this shoe is relevant to that time, you can imagine that this might go quite well with your vintage inspired or heritage inspired wardrobe. I have created a little bit more of a shine on the tip using high shine polish as well as the black wax polish products from Pure Polish Products, which I think is an excellent tool for restoring vintage leather. Hope you're doing well. Take care and goodbye.